If you're stuck, overwhelmed, and not getting results you want, today's video is for you. I'm gonna talk about 5 different athlete profiles: former athlete, the new parent, intimidated beginner, the weight loss warrior, and the lifelong athlete, and how I helped them achieve the results that they wanted. I've done hundreds of consultations with tons of different types of people, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. So today we're gonna break down some of the ways that these guys struggle and what I would tell them exactly what to do. The first athlete that we're gonna talk about today is the former athlete. Who is this? This is the person that maybe played collegiate athletics or high school athletics and has some sort of background in strength and conditioning. Maybe you've had a coach before in the gym, maybe on the field. Maybe life after sports was way different than what you anticipated or expected. Some of the things that these athletes struggle with is having an overwhelmed schedule. They have an all or nothing mindset, meaning they think, hey, I gotta train 5 to 7 days a week or it's not worth me training at all. They've trained really hard in the past being an athlete, and so they don't know what it looks like to balance their training. And they have guilt around training that's inconsistent. Some goals for this type of athlete is to feel strong again, to reduce the stress in their life, regain momentum without burnout. A lot of times the former athlete thinks, hey, I gotta go in at 110%, and they find out very shortly that it's really difficult to sustain something like that. Some key recommendations that I would make for the former athlete is stick to a consistent workout schedule. I think starting at 3 days per week is the best way to approach it. As a former athlete, this might feel like underwhelming for some because you are used to training 5 days to 7 days per week, multiple hours per day. So training 3 days a week and focusing on showing up and not focusing on results is gonna be the biggest thing for you. If we focus on intensity here, you're gonna feel like you gotta go way harder than you need to go. Focus on just showing up. The next goal that I would have for this type of athlete is focusing on short AMRAPs, somewhere between 6 and 12 minutes long, and EMOMs, every minute on the minute. These sorts of things are gonna help the athletes get back into a routine without feeling like they're overdoing the work on their system. Because 3 days a week might feel like very little work for these athletes to do, I'm gonna probably add a mobility day or an active recovery day for each of these athletes as well, so that they can get that extra training day in without any pressure of feeling like they have to perform by any means. The second athlete is the new parent. I know what that's like, being a new parent myself. These are people that are somewhere between having a newborn, hello, I'm right there, and a kid that is between there and 6 years old. This can be a pretty overwhelming point, and honestly, there's a lot of us that are inside this boat. Some of the things that people like us struggle with, the new parents, are exhaustion and inconsistent schedules. We're not really sleeping enough and we're feeling like, hey, there's too much to do. Maybe that working out is not fitting into my schedule. Feeling a little bit of pressure to get back into shape, whether that is not having a dad bod or getting back my prepartum or before I had my baby, what my body looked like and performed like, pressure to perform. A lot of times the new parents have a lot of guilt around taking time for themselves to focus on things that are gonna fill up their cup, increase their energy, increase their mood. So there's a lot of guilt associated with some of those things. Some of our goals for these athletes is to build some strength and some stamina. If we can do that, we can start to feel like ourselves again. And then also a big goal for all of these athletes as well is to set a great example for their families. They want to be able to have their children or their loved ones around them being set up and looked at as an example of what they should be doing long-term for their health. Some of my recommendations here for these athletes. My first thing would be quick workouts. We want these athletes doing at home at first, 10 minutes to 20-minute workouts with little to no equipment. At least trying to get into the gym for an in-person class at least 1 time per week. That in-person time, you're gonna be able to interact with the community around you. We all know that we are community-oriented creatures and we need some of that interaction that's uplifting, fulfilling, and helping us feel full and happy. So some focuses for nutrition-wise, we're gonna focus on, hey, can I get some protein sources and am I staying hydrated? Often those two things go by the wayside when it's, when am I gonna have my next meal? The next thing that I would do is I would put on the calendar 2 non-negotiable movement windows. I would let our athletes decide how long those movement windows would be, but I think setting 2 of these on your calendar every single week as a non-negotiable, I need to do some sort of movement, is extremely important. And the last thing here is celebrating small wins. Every little thing as a new parent should be seen as a win. You're getting back into a rhythm, back into a routine. Having a new child can be an opportunity that we're falling back towards wellness, away from fitness, and that's okay. We need to be celebrating those small wins for this athlete. All right, athlete profile number 3. This might be the athlete profile that resonates most with you, the intimidated beginner. Who is this person? This is the person who has never really been a part of a gym, who's never really worked out, they've never really lifted weights, they've never really played sports, but they're kind of in one of 2 places with their lives right now. They might feel like they would like to take on some athletic endeavors, or they're feeling like they need to get a little bit more of a handle on their health and fitness. They're getting a little bit older and they understand the importance of living healthy in order to be living for a long time and living well. Some of the things that this athlete struggles with is they've never worked out seriously before. So something like a gym membership might seem extremely daunting to them. They feel like CrossFit is not for them and they're afraid of injury, they're afraid of burnout, they're afraid of being overwhelmed or judged as well. And let's talk about some of the goals that this athlete might have. They want to get fit without feeling overwhelmed. They want to build confidence inside the gym. And I think that confidence inside the gym builds confidence outside of the gym as well. Then they want to learn. They have a heavy emphasis on wanting to learn proper form and technique. So what would I do for this athlete? The first and most important thing is this person needs to go through our foundations program, which is somewhere between 6 and 12 one-on-one sessions with a coach. We do want you introduced to the group class at some point, but really want to introduce this to you at the right pace, with the right way, including proper form, technique, postures, so that you feel confident going into the group classes later on down the road. The next few things is you need to focus on showing up, not on maxing out. So if we show up and we're not worrying about how heavy we go or how fast we go, you're really gonna be able to build your confidence. In classes, you might see people working off of percentages of 1 rep maxes. As a new athlete, you will not have those. You're gonna be going off of feel and working on good technique. The last thing here, and it's super important, I think this is probably the most important thing that I do for new athletes, is really help them dial in the lingo and the language. CrossFit has, and fitness in general, has a lot of lingo and a lot of words that may seem super intimidating as far as workouts go, as far as nutrition goes, as far as fitness goes. And I really want that athlete to feel comfortable with the words that we're using, how they use them, how they relate them to their life as well. Athlete number 4, the weight loss warrior. Who is this person? This is the person who's lost somewhere between 20 pounds and 100 pounds and is struggling to do what's next. Maybe they lost the weight, they're still a long ways from being finished, or maybe they lost weight and then regained that weight again. They're struggling to figure out, hey, what do they need to do to keep that weight off long term? Some of the things that this person struggles with is potentially yo-yo dieting. What does that mean? Going from diet to diet to diet, or maybe they find success with something, then they step away from it and they regain that weight back again, so they try something else. They feel like they've tried everything, right? They've gone from thing to thing to thing. They've done diet after diet after diet, after exercise program after exercise program after exercise program, but nothing really sticks long term. The goal here is lifestyle change, and that's a big determining factor for these athletes. The last thing is they have a low confidence in most fitness settings. They feel like a little bit of imposter syndrome, like they aren't quite the person who they need to be. Some goals for this person. We want to figure out some sustainable fat loss for them, for sure. We want to figure out how do we have better energy and better self-image. Better energy and better self-image will do wonders for our confidence down the road. What are some things that we're gonna do, or I'm gonna do, to help that athlete? The first one, and the big one here, is we're gonna shift our focus away from outcomes and towards process. What do I mean shifting away from outcomes and into process? Instead of looking at the scale and saying, I'm determining my success about what the scale says, we start to say, I'm determining my success by what I'm doing. If I can commit or focus on the things that I'm doing rather than the results that are happening, I'm gonna have much more success long term. The next thing that we need to do is start some strength training. I would say strength training at least 3 days a week. We know that oftentimes this athlete or this client loves to do cardio. They spend hours and hours each week doing lots of cardio because we think that it burns fat or burns a lot of calories. Strength training is one of the best ways to metabolize fat and to keep it off long term. The next thing that we're gonna do is talk a little bit about nutrition, but we're not gonna overwhelm. We're gonna talk about the 1 plate rule, which means at each meal, we're only gonna have 1 plate. Some things that we wanna focus on is having protein, non-starchy carbohydrates, and some fats, healthy fats on that plate as well. If we can stick to 1 plate per meal and not focus on macros overall, we're gonna start to develop a more sustainable and consistent food routine. The last thing that we're gonna talk about for this athlete is some extra accountability. Oftentimes, this person does really well when they work in a semi-private or a small group setting where they've got a coach that they are directly accountable to, or they work within a small group of people. All right, our 5th and final athlete is our plateaued long-time athlete. Who is this athlete? This is the athlete that might be in the gym for 5 to 10 years, and they're starting to feel like, hey, I'm not seeing results anymore. I'm not really getting the physique that I want to see. Maybe I'm not really having as much fun going into the gym anymore, but I'm still here. What are some of the things that this athlete struggles with? They're training regularly, but they are not seeing the same progress that they were seeing early on in their training. They're frustrated with the stagnation, whether that means less fun, whether that means they're dealing with maybe a little bit more injury and overuse. Maybe that means that they aren't really seeing the physique results that they were when they first started as well. And maybe this athlete is not sure what's missing. The things that they were doing aren't working anymore. What are some goals this typical athlete has? They want to break through some sort of strength plateau or some sort of physique barrier. And then we want to find challenge and purpose in our training again. Oftentimes when we lose our why and we stop having fun, that training gets difficult and plateaus start to happen. Some of my early recommendations for this athlete is to look at some of those easy gaps in lifestyle that may be hindering them. These athletes also need to be prioritizing the non-fitness activities in their life. They need to be prioritizing the sleep, they need to be prioritizing the food and the stress management. If we can prioritize those 3 things, we're gonna have better outcomes in the gym. Finally, we're gonna introduce some new performance stuff. I'm gonna have certain expectations, performance goals that they're gonna be training for so that they have a purpose or goal. And I may even have them step aside or have a new focus on some sort of sport or training, at least for a little while, to change up routine, to introduce more fun and more engagement from them as well. 5 different athletes, 5 different struggles. But all of them had the same question: what should I do next? And once we create the plan, progress is inevitable. If any of these sounded like you, drop a comment below. Everyone deserves progress. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe, like our content. We'll see you next week. If you've ever ghosted your gym, had to start over on a Monday, or thought lifting a baby counts as leg day, our videos are for you. We break down all sorts of health and fitness content and give you real advice I wish more people heard. No fluff, no BS, just actionable items. Even if your life's a mess and your squat form is questionable, at the end of our videos, you'll find some sort of actionable content and know what to do next. So buckle up, this might be uncomfortably relatable.